The following is a presentation of the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, and real since 1998.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To scratch and major itch. So enjoy your fruity pebbles, you yabba dabba bitch.
They're killing! And CM Punk, and I am the voice of the voiceless.
Be the man. You gotta beat the man. Woo woo woo. You know it. I got okey doke by little Jimmy.
Live from the Pro Wrestling Report studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This is Monday Night Meltdown with your hosts, Damian Nelson and David Hero.
I'm proud to say we're doing things the Vince McMahon way.
That's the bottom line. Why? 'Cause Stone Cold said so.
Bringing you all the latest news and views from professional wrestling. Monday Night Meltdown is on the air.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report and Monday Night Meltdown. We are back on the air and live on January 7, 2013, the very first show of the year. Damian Nelson here alongside Matthew Thomas talking about WWE Raw that just went off the air, which featured the return of The Rock and a WWE Championship TLC matchup. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you are all over the world, ladies and gentlemen. We are also discussing this actively on Twitter, and our Twitter username is @PWR Show, where in just a few moments ago, we sent out a tweet asking you to let us know whether you thought Raw deserved a pass or failing grade here tonight, live from Tampa, Florida. Also, active discussion going on here in the chat room on Blog Talk Radio. Hundreds of you right now discussing what just went down with The Rock and CM Punk. We saw CM Punk with his second version of the pipe bomb. This one a bit more pointed and a little less, favorable for the fans of professional wrestling, as he said to us, that we are all losers. There is no way we will win. He will win, and that it is all about Punk. 414 days he has been WWE Champion, and you can't sneeze at that, that's for sure. But The Rock comes out and says that those 414 days will end at day number 434, as the Royal Rumble is some 20 days away, where The Rock will go one-on-one with John Cena for the WWE Championship. With CM Punk, rather, for the WWE Championship. CM Punk, who defeated Ryback tonight in that TLC matchup for the WWE Championship. An active night on Raw, one where we saw the great one and Mr. Pipe Bomb himself, CM Punk, the voice of the voiceless, the best in the world, face-to-face in the ring. And a lot of feedback on that face-to-face confrontation going on right now, blowing up social media, blowing up our chat room. Conflicting beliefs out there as to who, quote-unquote, won tonight in that battle verbally between The Rock and CM Punk. What we do know is that The Rock got the upper hand at the end, executing the rock bottom on CM Punk. Matthew Thomas, welcome back to the broadcast. Let's talk about that ending few minutes of WWE Raw. Let's talk about the return of The Rock. Let's talk about the pipe bomb from CM Punk. What were your thoughts before The Rock entered the ring with what CM Punk had to say?
Well, the thing with Punk's pipe bomb number 2 tonight is it's really hard to capture that lightning in a bottle twice. And it was a great promo by Punk. Pretty much everything that he does, especially in the last month since he's been injured, the length of time that he is getting now with each promo has grown, and he continues to deliver on the mic. Another promo that felt very real, but I think that it's not as impactful as it would have been a year and a half or 2 years ago before pipe bomb number 1, just because, especially with the intro going to break where they're talking about he's going to go out there and drop another pipe bomb, there's not really too much he can say at this point in time that's really going to shock and awe the way he did a year and a half ago. And it was excellent. I really enjoyed it. I think it did what it needed to do at this stage in the game of Punk's title run. But at the same time, I just don't think you're really ever going to get that shock value like you had on that stage a year and a half ago.
You know, I got to say that you're hitting the nail on the head there. People didn't expect it back in 2011. There was realness surrounding that whole thing because CM Punk's contract had actually expired. He didn't know if he was going to continue with WWE. But tonight, in saying that there would be another pipe bomb, well, the fans want to hear the stuff he said a year and a half ago. They don't want to hear the stuff he said tonight, and I'm not sure if that heat was necessary. What I mean by that is you've got to wonder if this was done in part to ensure that The Rock was on a higher plane as a face than CM Punk was. And whether or not that was the case, I enjoyed what Punk had to say. However, it was uncomfortable to listen to what Punk had to say because, quite frankly, he has a reputation in this business for being the guy that he said he was tonight. Whether or not he's actually that guy, none of us can speak to that because we don't know him well enough. But it was a little uncomfortable at times just to hear those things and hear those things be said. And I got to tell you, he said a lot of stuff that was true. He said a lot of stuff that meant a lot to me. He talked about Tyson Kidd, who's great, being over less than little Jimmy. He talked about how Hulk Hogan and Bruno Sammartino they didn't have it as hard as he did. Now, arguably, they didn't. But at the same time, Hulk Hogan, Bruno Sammartino, The Rock, they all could walk out to any audience right now and have the crowd right in the palm of their hands. And you can't say CM Punk was that guy for longer than about a 3-week period, because if we go back to that first pipe bomb back in 2011, which he talks about so much, let's not forget just 3 to 4 weeks after that, when the pipe bomb was a lost hope, when he had indeed, as he said tonight, sold out, at least for purposes of presentation on TV. And the pipe bomb was never really capitalized on. Now, you could argue that CM Punk is a great superstar, and there is no doubt he's a great wrestler. There is no doubt that for a time he had the audience mesmerized. And there's no doubt that within the internet wrestling community, he is one of the darlings. He is one of the big stars. He is loved. He is beloved. But is CM Punk a draw just like The Rock? Is he a draw just like John Cena? Is he a draw like the people he mentioned tonight, the Flairs, the Hogans, and Sammartinos of the world? If you had the opportunity to look at the business numbers, which none of us do, you'd probably be surprised that he isn't. But at the same time, he's been WWE champion for 414 days. I hope I don't sound like I think I do, which is talking in circles. CM Punk is a dynamic character. The Rock said it tonight. He's got passion. He's got drive. He's got a brilliant wrestling mind. And keep in mind, I've had the opportunity to see CM Punk wrestle for many a year longer than many of you have out there, because he spent a lot of time in the independents here in the Milwaukee area wrestling before he made it in ROH and before he made it in WWE. How true was what CM Punk said tonight, I think, is the real question as we walk away. And the moment The Rock's music hit, you knew, you felt. I don't want to sound cliched here, but that electricity was there. Whether you like The Rock or not, for coming back whenever he chooses to come back, for doing movies and making millions of dollars, which none of us would pass up the opportunity to do, no matter your feelings about The Rock, you can't deny the reaction he gets. Nobody heard any boos tonight when The Rock came out. Now, at the same time, back when Punk was at the height of his popularity, you didn't hear any boos for him either. This is what makes this very dynamic going into the Royal Rumble. This is what makes this powerful going into the Royal Rumble. And The Rock had a lot of pointed things to say to CM Punk tonight. Some might say his promo was tired. Some might say it was cliched. Some might say it was same old Rock. Well, you know what? 15,000 people in Tampa loved it, and I'm sure millions of people watching at home loved it as well. And the small portion of the audience that didn't, well, they're not going to be as powerful as those who did. So, Matthew, The Rock, his comments to CM Punk, your thoughts. What did you take away from what the Great One had to say?
Well, to touch back on what you just mentioned, Damien, the reaction that he gets whenever he comes back, it's outstanding. Just watching the crowd response. Anytime The Rock enters, I mean, it's the electricity. It sounds cliche, but the electricity is certainly there. as far as the actual promo itself tonight, I really wish it would have, and it kind of went there towards the end, but at least the first half of the interaction, it wasn't necessarily as personal as I would have liked to have seen it. It wasn't necessarily about these two guys. It was more of Punk coming out there and cutting his promo, knocking the WWE Universe, and Rock basically coming out there and saying, these guys are great, they don't suck. To a certain extent, it reminded me the dynamic. If you go to an indie show or somewhere where you have the heel face not really established and they're going out there, it's the typical thing of knocking the hometown or knocking the city, knocking the crowd to establish who the bad guy is. It's the first half of it with, you know, Punk's promo and then Rock coming out there spending a lot of the time just building up the WWE Universe was not necessarily what I wanted to see. Now, we've got 3 weeks, and that's plenty of time for the personal elements to develop between these two guys, but at least for the first half of it, it did feel a little bit tired to me. It just felt like there just wasn't enough necessarily animosity or exchange on a level between the two guys. So hopefully that will change here in the next 3 weeks, but that's the way that it initially came off to me.
Interesting, you know, because we had that with Cena and Rock, that's for sure. And you wondered many a time if there was true dissension there. And I don't doubt that there's true dissension between those two. I don't doubt that there's true dissension between CM Punk and The Rock. But, you know, at no time during when The Rock was saying what he had to say tonight did I find it to be old or played, at least from my standpoint. But what I did notice was face-to-face, standing in that ring until CM Punk got in his face and spoke, one of those guys looked out of place in that ring tonight, comparatively speaking to The Rock, and that was CM Punk. Now, that all went away the moment CM Punk stepped in his face and spoke and said, you are going to be wrestling with God at the Royal Rumble. CM Punk did not back down. He did not show fear. He did not show any hesitation in getting in the face of that beast, that man beast named The Rock. And that is respectable for sure. That may be the takeaway that I have from that segment tonight is Punk stepped up. Punk is not backing down. And then just after he stepped up and didn't back down, The Rock gave him credit for how good he is. That, I think, is what you need to get people to push that interactive button on the remote control to order the Royal Rumble, because, by the way, it's just about sold out already. That, I think, is what you need, because you really wonder if Punk is going to beat The Rock. And you don't, and WWE is smart if this is what their goal is, and you got to imagine it is. They don't want to go into this pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble, and have everybody thinking that there's no way Punk can win it, thinking that The Rock is going to win it. Now, there is a very definite chance that he will, especially looking at the fact that we know he's going to be participating in the Royal Rumble, in WrestleMania, and maybe participating in the Elimination Chamber matchup as well, as the promotional material for that has The Rock plastered all over it. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for this to sink in. Of course, with the immediacy of social media and whatnot, you know, people are saying a lot, including on Twitter, where we just asked if you thought CM Punk got the upper hand tonight. Looking for retweets on that, and going out just now as the same tweet asking if you thought The Rock got the upper hand tonight in that verbal battle between the two. We're actually going to be taking your phone calls in just a few minutes as we go into the phone zone, and we're looking for the same thing. We want to know, who did you think won, I guess, tonight? Was it The Rock or was it CM Punk? Who walked out with the upper hand? And be prepared to explain yourself. And explaining yourself can't be just because I like The Rock better or I like CM Punk better. Go into detail, be prepared to explain yourself, and be prepared to prove to all of those listening out there why you thought The Rock or CM Punk got the upper hand in that promo tonight. You know what? It was a lot of people talk about wrestling and what wrestling is today and what these 3-hour Raws mean and what being a great wrestler means and what being a great performer means. Matthew, I would venture to say that there's nobody out there that was closer to the TV set or more in tune with what was going on during Raw tonight than when The Rock and CM Punk were standing center ring.
No, because it's really what we have been waiting on since back in the summer, since Raw 1000, when we found out The Rock would wrestle the champion at the Royal Rumble. So it's one of those things that has been built up for going on 7 months now, and to finally get that payoff was a moment. And it was another 3-hour Raw. I thought an overall good 3-hour Raw to start off the new year. It was some spots that tended to drag a little bit, but without question, I mean, that was must-see TV for a little while there tonight.
More happened on Raw tonight, as we'll get back to Rock and CM Punk in a minute. And we talked about that TLC matchup for the WWE Championship, CM Punk's return to the ring. He took on Ryback, and without any surprise to anyone, as Ryback was about to capture the WWE Championship from the top of the ladder, the lights go dark, and out comes the Shield, who thwarted Ryback's efforts, allowing CM Punk to retain the WWE Championship again here tonight on Raw. Now, what the heck does this mean for Ryback? I mean, he's never really lost, but he loses every time he tries to get his hands on Punk or the WWE Championship. It was a good TLC matchup leading up to that finish, but I thought the finish was brilliantly executed with CM Punk's performance and how slow and deliberately he went up that ladder, basically with one arm and one leg. But it was a good matchup, and CM Punk retains the championship over Ryback. But what damage was done to the Shield? Was done to Ryback, if any?
Well, it's been basically the same thing that they have done with Ryback for the last 3 months, and it seems now at this point, now that we're going into Royal Rumble with Punk and Rock, that it has basically just been a way to get us there. They're clearly trying to at least make some effort to protect Ryback, because every outing he gets screwed over in some capacity. And that was the problem with initially going into TLC. The match was kind of booked as, okay, you're going to get Ryback versus Punk one-on-one, like it's some kind of way that Ryback is finally going to get his fair shake of the title. Well, the problem with the TLC match is there's no disqualification. So going into this match tonight, you really had to place your bet on the fact that there was going to be some interference by the Shield. So more of the same, and that's kind of been the problem the last 3 months, because we really, I think most everybody felt we were going to go into Rock versus Punk at the Rumble, and you really didn't go into any pay-per-view thinking that, the Hell in a Cell was different because the whole Ryback push kind of came out of nowhere in the title scene. But outside of that, you really didn't see another way, with the exception, without having Punk having the title going into Royal Rumble. So tonight was just another step in making an effort to keep it so that Ryback had to lose at the hands of 3 additional people. But at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think that this damages Ryback, because I still think that he's better off now than he would have been had this angle not have happened. I mean, he was going in there dominating 2 jobbers a week, and then gradually building up to a little higher caliber talent. But we look at the people that in the mid-card earlier in 2012 that were getting a similar unstoppable push. I mean, you got to go back early part of the year, but Tensai was booked pretty tough there for a little while. You had Brodus Clay, who seemed unstoppable there for a little while too, and Ryback was kind of, I mean, he was going and dominating people a little bit more, but he was kind of in that same mid-card area there. So it looks, I can understand the argument that he can potentially be damaged by this, because it's been the same outcome every time he goes into a title match. But you just kind of got to step back and look at it and see, and imagine where he'd be had he not gotten thrust into this main event picture. And I think that is as kind of convoluted as it does seem with the Shield interference at Survivor Series and the Shield interference tonight. If you can come out of this and have Ryback feud with the Shield, I think it gives those 4 guys a little elevated spot than any of them would have been had their involvement in this whole WWE title storyline not have taken place.
Good point. Yeah, you know what also is notable is that aside from the first few minutes of the program, it was a Cena. There wasn't much Cena on the show. Now he had a matchup with Dolph Ziggler, which was a great match, by the way. A good way to kick off Raw. Ziggler, of course, losing to John Cena in that matchup, but it was well done, very well done. But this night was clearly focused on The Rock and CM Punk. We also saw the Divas Championship contested, but Eve walked out in the match with Caitlyn, taking the count out to retain the Divas Championship. The Rhodes Scholars get the win, specifically Cody Rhodes, who's endorsed, gets the pin and win on Daniel Bryan of Team Hell No. Randy Orton gets a defeat over Heath Slater. Heath Slater also endorsed. Now, you realize these first 5 matchups have featured endorsed talents, by the way. I just want to make sure you know that. And Wade Barrett defeating Santino Marella, a quick and easy matchup. For some reason, Ricky Steamboat was in the corner of Santino in this matchup. You got to wonder if that's leading to something down the road, but we'll see what happens with that. And a rematch from last Wednesday's main event. We talked about this on Primetime. Antonio Cesaro, the United States champion, goes one-on-one with the Great Khali. Perhaps they wanted to expose the millions, if you will, more watching Raw to that great performance that Cesaro had with Khali from last week's main event matchup in a live format on Raw tonight, because they wrestled essentially the same matchup at the same finish, but man, it looked just as good the second time as it did last week on main event. I know you like this matchup too, Matthew.
Oh, absolutely. And the crowd response at the end, too, when Cesaro hit his finisher was outstanding. I mean, people were in awe. And, yeah, it was as good of a match, I think, as I've seen Khali involved in, to be honest with you. I mean, there was the way that Cesaro went about his attack, so to speak. There seemed to be, some good psychology and a good story. There was some believability there. And I'm one of those that normally, when I see it's going to be a Khali match, I zone out to a certain extent, but I found, and I didn't really have, high expectations. Now, the main event match was, impressive the other night, but I still kind of found myself in that zone out mode a little bit. But these guys, I thought that Cesaro had an outstanding match, and to do it in front of a live Raw audience, I think, was the big thing. Even though it was pretty much the same match as main event, I think that to expose, and the thing of it is, I mean, Khali is certainly not main event material currently, but it's still extremely impressive when you go in there and have somebody pick up a clean, dominant victory over somebody the likes of the Great Khali.
Yeah. Well, Sheamus gets a victory over Jinder Mahal, and a lot of 3MB tonight. And again, the trend continues. 3MB been getting a lot of TV time. We'll see, I guess, I don't know where they're going with it, I guess, just to be honest with you. I don't have a problem with 3MB, but it's just, I don't know if it's a big joke or what, but we'll see what happens.
For right now, it's fun. I think it's kind of just what they're going with. They seem just to be having fun with it, and you kind of get a step back and take a little look at it from a distance. I mean, the idea, if you were to go back 6 months ago and say, okay, we're going to have, now the Slater thing you could kind of see coming because they were starting to use him a little bit, but as far as McIntyre and Jinder Mahal, we're going to have these guys in a rock trio. It just, the idea seems a bit out there, but I think it's starting to catch a little bit.
Well, that was the Raw that was tonight, and we have a lot more to talk about, including getting your comments on the phone zone. I think I told you we were going to take your calls earlier, but I didn't give you the phone number. The number to call in here on the Meltdown is 877-317-9772. Again, that's 877-317-9772. We're going to take a couple of your calls and talk about whether it was Punk or CM or Rock, rather, that got the upper hand tonight. But before we do that, when we come back from this brief timeout, we're going to talk about shenanigans in the concrete jungle. The event went on sale today. We've got details on the biggest after party in history. Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown continues right after this brief timeout.
Monday Night Meltdown continues after this, live on Blog Talk Radio. covering pro wrestling like no other. This is Monday Night Meltdown live on Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown. We're live here on Blog Talk Radio, Monday, January 7, 2013, the very first PWR broadcast of 2013, at least online on the radio here. And we're talking about WWE Raw, which featured a standoff between The Rock and CM Punk, the two combatants who will go at it for the WWE Championship at the Royal Rumble in just 20 days. 414 days CM Punk has been WWE Champion. The Rock seeking for that to only be 20 more days going into the Royal Rumble. We're asking you right now on Twitter whether or not you thought tonight's Raw overall was a pass or a fail. Find our tweet and retweet your thoughts. Additionally, we're looking to find out who won tonight in the showdown between CM Punk and The Rock. And we're going to go to the phones right now. We're going to go to the phone zone and take a couple of your calls and find out from each of you why you thought your guy, whether it be Punk or CM Punk, got the upper hand. Let's first go to our hometown of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and go to Ken, who thought CM Punk got the edge tonight on Raw. Ken, you're live.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Tremendous, Ken.
Well, I think Punk won hands down tonight. I don't think there's really any question. I mean, I saw a lot of people say it didn't compare to last year's pipe bomb or whatever, but honestly, when I was watching it, I wasn't even thinking about like that. It was the furthest thing from my mind. I was stuck to my screen from the beginning to the end when he came out. And I saw a lot of people said it felt long or whatever, but that shows you how good he is, because it wasn't very long to me. I was just like feeding and everything he was saying, and it was great how he was playing off the crowds, telling them that you're falling into everything I'm saying. They keep falling into it, and The Rock comes out, and he comes out and does all the little catchphrases, goes through all of them, and Punk completely exposes it to me and says, this is everything you're doing, all catchphrases, you're not serious. And he just kind of comes back with more, tattoo it and turn your shoe sideways, and it seemed real lame after CM Punk.
Ken, here's my question. How long have you been watching pro wrestling?
Since I was really young. I was
Has it been 10 years, 15 years, 5 years?
Yeah, 15 at least.
So when The Rock was turning it sideways 15 years ago, did you like it or did you hate it?
I did, but now, it feels, compared to Punk's thing, it felt really sticky, and he pointed out, and it did when he came back with it the second time around. I mean, the first time I didn't mind all of it, but when he came back the second time after Punk said, you just spouting off catchphrases and jokes, he's like, he came back with the same material. It just felt sticky, and when Punk says, your arms are too short to box with God, how do you come back with turn it sideways and come back with all this shtick and I'm supposed to take it seriously? And but everything Punk said was just epic to me from beginning to end. And I don't know how anybody can say The Rock came out and did better. It seemed like a run-of-the-mill whatever Rock.
All right, Ken. Well, thank you very much for that feedback. They put one on the tote for CM Punk. Let's go now out to New York, where we've got John. But before we go to New York, we want to make sure all of you realize that the Pro Wrestling Report is bringing a huge event to New York City as part of WrestleMania weekend. That's going to be on Saturday, April 6th, right after the WWE Hall of Fame induction ceremony. It will be the Shenanigans in the Concrete Jungle Party. And this is going to be the biggest party in the history of professional wrestling, at least if it pertains to the Pro Wrestling Report, because we are going to be directly across the street from Madison Square Garden for Shenanigans in the Concrete Jungle, which is going to be hosted by Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash hosting Shenanigans in the Concrete Jungle. We're going to be at the Hotel Pennsylvania on the top floor ballroom, hosting an exclusive party event. Tickets went on sale today. You go to pwrshow.com right now and get your tickets. And there are ticket packages that include several things. One of them, Matthew, includes an open bar, which is going to define the word shenanigans. Get VIP Platinum, you get free booze all night. You don't get that opportunity in New York very often. That Shenanigans in the Concrete Jungle, Kevin Nash hosting that event. More names will be announced in the coming weeks, but we do know this. Just like Miami last year, just like Atlanta the year before, this party will reach capacity soon. Remember, Sweet and Sexy sold out in 4 days. We expect this event to sell out very rapidly as well. Get your tickets via pwr.eventbrite.com, pwr.eventbrite.com. So hopefully we're going to see John in New York there, but one thing's for sure is we're going to hear right now why John in New York thought The Rock got the upper hand tonight over CM Punk. You're live, John.
You just mentioned my two favorite words in the whole dictionary, open bar. I mean, I'm buying my ticket tomorrow. I know exactly what open bar means. It means tons of people you can't get through, and you end up trying to wait for the bartender for 3 hours. So
wait a minute, John, you've not been to a PWR Shenanigans event before because buddy, top of the Hotel Pennsylvania, right across the street from Madison Square Garden, VIP exclusive area. You ain't gonna be waiting. You're gonna be getting all the booze you want for as long as you want, as long as you get your ticket.
And I know you're bringing the jack, so I'll be there. Well, you know what? It was really, really close, and I ended up going with The Rock only because The Rock was standing tall at the end. I mean, CM Punk didn't have anything to say after, that candy-ass tattoos, which is awesome, by the way. But, it was really close. I mean, big ups to Punk. I agree with everything you said. He stood up strong, never backed down. It was really, really close. But The Rock, in my opinion, standing tall at the end, you can't, deny him. I have a quick question for you guys. If you see The Rock and Lesnar, at WrestleMania, Taker, Cena, and maybe Ziggler and Orton for the title, who do you put Punk with at WrestleMania? If all those names are already taken.
That's the question, my friend. That is the question.
If Stone Cold can make it, and that's a dream car, but if Stone Cold cannot, where does that leave Punk? You were asking, where does that leave Ryback? I think they could do something like they did with Kane, at the Royal Rumble, where he eliminates tons of people, kind of build them up. Maybe win the Rumble, but, do something big like that.
Well, let's think about this.
One quick question. I know you guys have expressed some time, but do you know anything about the WWE TV that we heard about for like 2-3 years? It's called
WWE Network.
Yes. What happened?
Yeah, well, they've been very public with the information. Thank you for that call, John. They've been very public with the information thus far. They just can't find an operator that wants to put the network on the air. And they're looking at some alternative models right now, which could be a pay version like HBO. It could be a partnership option as well, which I believe is the latest option they're looking at to get this thing on television. But, maybe Oprah's network will fail and they can just take that over because it ain't doing as well as people thought it would be. To your other question, John, and I'm going to let Matthew chime in as well. CM Punk, I'll back up a little bit. WrestleMania, keep in mind, it's practically sold out in New York and New Jersey. All they got to do now is secure the pay-per-view buys and look at the names they're going to have on the card. As Triple H said, it's probably going to be The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, The Rock, John Cena. All right. It matters not as much who those people are going to be wrestling as it matters that they're going to be on the card. But to the question of who that leaves for CM Punk, Matthew, I don't have a damn clue where they're going to go with this. They can go anywhere.
Yeah, they really could. In my perfect world, to just kind of fantasy book for a second, it would go something like this: Lesnar costing The Rock the championship at the Rumble, going into something with basically Rock versus Brock at WrestleMania, and then potentially doing Punk versus Undertaker, a bit of a streak versus streak type of thing. Again, that's in my perfect dream world, the likelihood of that happening. I mean, it's not outside the realm of possibility, but we'll just have to wait and see. Yeah,
and that's interesting. Sorry, I was doing something else there. But WrestleMania is going to be a good card, and I don't even know if WWE knows what matches they're really going to go with yet. And let's not forget that there's a lot of unfinished business, a lot of loose ends to be tied up. And there's nothing saying Triple H won't actually get back in the ring and wrestle again. And as John from New York said, maybe Stone Cold's going to come back. I think those chances are very, very, very slim. But, hell, you never know. Anything goes. This is going to be, at least for internally, within the minds of those in WWE, the biggest WrestleMania ever, because it's in their backyard, and they want to do everything they can, including try to control the weather so it doesn't snow, to make sure this WrestleMania is as epic as last year's was, and maybe can overtake the throne of what many say was the best top-to-bottom WrestleMania ever, that being WrestleMania 17. Well, we've taken a couple of phone calls. We got one Punk, one Rock. Well, we've got one caller who feels that tonight it was a draw, and that'd be Casey from down in Mobile, Alabama. Casey, you're live here on the Pro Wrestling Report.
Hey, how you doing, man? First off, Mr. Nelson, I want to welcome you back from your vacay. It's great to hear your voice, man. Awesome.
Thank you.
The reason why I think that this verbal dispute was a draw, because both guys didn't hit to their highest expectations like they're supposed to. Let's go with the comic, CM Punk. CM Punk, it wasn't that great pipe bomb that everybody knows CM Punk to do. It was a PG pipe bomb. It was a pipe bomb that pretty much went flat. As far as with The Rock, me being a fan nearly over 20 years, The Rock is pretty much, he can go to the extreme, but it's almost like the same thing. He went PG. It was flat. So they even it out with both of these guys. Anybody that believes that CM Punk's going to win, they didn't add anybody else to the roster with that. Same thing with The Rock. So you have both guys that still have a fan base. It's just fan base believing in their guy. You have nobody else.
You know what, I gotta say to that, Casey, and thank you very much for calling. I wonder though how many of Punk's fans might have turned away tonight. I don't know if any did, because keep in mind, us that do this show, Matthew, myself, David, Meathead, all of you who listen, you want more than just what happens in the 3 hours or 2 hours on the broadcast on whatever given night. Most of the audience, though, they don't. And they just go and they see it as fans, and they don't know what might be going on in the backstages or whatnot. And quite frankly, a lot of them don't care. So you got to wonder how Punk's words impacted those fans tonight. Because at the end of the day, if they start turning away and booing him and more cheering for anybody else he's against, then ultimately it's a win for WWE, because what are they really missing right now? Strong heels. There's no doubt CM Punk's a heel. There's absolutely no doubt CM Punk's a heel. But did he become that Roddy Piper level heel tonight? Somebody who most fans just actually hate so much that they might try to stab him. They might try to shoot him. They might try to beat him up in the 7-Eleven when they see him. That's a question that will be answered over the course of the next few weeks. I want to thank you guys for calling. And as we said, Matthew, we've been asking on Twitter, pass or fail, WWE Raw. We've also been asking, who won, CM Punk or The Rock tonight? Well, I'm a little surprised by the results of this, to be honest with you. Let's first go to the pass-fail results. And we do this every week. Last time we did it on this program was back in December, and we were looking at the Raw dated from, I think it was, all the way back on December 1st, about a month ago, where 73% of the audience thought it was a passing grade. 73% giving it a passing grade. Well, tonight, for the first time in history, Matthew, 100% of the audience out there and on Twitter thought that Raw deserved a passing grade tonight. 100%, every single person thought it deserved a passing grade. Now, things aren't as clear when you look at the question of who won between The Rock and CM Punk. And, 81%. 81% of you say that it was the man from Chicago, Illinois, CM Punk, who got the upper hand in the promo tonight over The Rock. Only 19% saying that The Rock got the upper hand. This shall lead to some very interesting discussion. I spoke to David Hero, who's at a convention this week and not able to join us until primetime on Saturday. I spoke to him earlier in the evening, and believe me, he is fit to be tied over what he saw tonight, because he is, as you well know, not the biggest of fans of CM Punk. And if you were following David Herr on Twitter tonight, you saw some of the things he had to say. Well, we're going to expand on that this Saturday on Primetime, in addition to continuing our discussion on the greatest wrestling managers of all time. Who indeed is the greatest of all time? All that along with more, including this week's trivia winner. All that on Primetime this Saturday night. But Matthew, you and Meathead are back this Thursday for Sudden Impact Radio, and we're going into Genesis on pay-per-view this Sunday night, where Dixie Carter announced, president of TNA Wrestling, announces Sting returns to the ring at Genesis. That happened on Twitter this evening. Big show coming up this Thursday, Sudden Impact Radio.
Yes, indeed. We will be there breaking it down like we are every Thursday after Impact goes off the air. So look forward to talking to all you guys then.
Well, Matthew, thank you for joining us. Thank you to all of you who interacted with us, not only on Twitter, but also on our Facebook page, facebook.com/PWR Show, facebook.com/PWR Show, and on the chat room, right here on Blog Talk Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys again Thursday for Sudden Impact Radio, and then Saturday for Primetime. And don't forget, Shenanigans in the Concrete Jungle, hosted by Kevin Nash, right across the street from Madison Square Garden after the Hall of Fame, on sale now at pwrshow.com. So long, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.